Hello, this is Nikki in Niagara coming to you from Niagara Falls, Canada, and welcome to Throwback Thursday, the day where I grab a book from my bookcase or a craft book from my bookcase that I have had for many, many years and have, for some reason or other, decided that it's a keeper and that it will stay on my shelves. Today's book is on the topic of ATCs. It's called Artist Trading Card Workshop, Create, Collect, Swap by Bernie Berlin, and it was published in 2007 by North Star Books. This book is mostly a techniques book. It shows you a technique on making an ATC, and then it gives you galleries of other people's cards. So we have our table of contents here. Oh no, there's no table of contents. Here it is. So first we have the Create section, which has many, many techniques in it. Then we have a section called Ultra Cards, which are something a little out of the ordinary. Then we have Storage for Artist Trading Cards and a section called Collect and Swap. So at the beginning here we have a little bit of history of what an ATC is and a little bit about the history and the community. Artist trading cards are never to be sold. The whole purpose of them is for exchanging, not selling. That's why they're called trading cards. At some point, people decided they wanted to trade them, so they called them... Oh, I can't remember what they were called. ACEOs, I think, which was art card something or other. They were ones that were made for the purpose of selling. But traditionally, artist cards are traded, not sold. Here we have a nice, wonderful pile of ATCs. Okay, then... Oh, this is the page that's the history. And right there I can tell that that's Claudine Helmuth. And we will continue on. Okay, so we have this section on Create. All the different ways of creating ATCs. If the artists' names are shown, I will tell you. Not every time, though. Okay, so first of all we have intuitive watercolor. Now this is where you let ink or watercolor drop onto your page and then you look at it and you outline shapes that you see to create a card. See? These ones right here, these are typical of it. This is Claudine Helmuth and she's turned a cloud into a rabbit. Okay, this is doing watercolor on a baby wipe on top of a piece of paper, and you get a design going through. You can also actually use the baby wipe as your surface too. Here we have the same thing with a paper towel, except paint the paper towel and adhere it to your surface. Stamp over it, do all sorts of things, gives you nice texture. And then we have a leafing pen resist. I'm not too sure what a leafing pen is. Metallic leafing pen. Well, any paint pen will work as a resist, so you can do that. Inky layers, collage, put on bits of ink straight from your ink pads or spray them on. Stencils, of course. magazine paper. All sorts of things can be done with magazines. Here we see them chopping a face up and then rearranging it with the nose, eyes, and the mouth. And here we have the mouth, eyes, and the nose. That's quite interesting. So yeah, I'm not going to linger too long on these pages with talking. I'll just let you have a look at them. You can always pause the video if you want to have a bigger look. Or I should say longer look, not bigger look. So here's a gallery by different artists using the techniques that we've just been told. Okay, now we have gesso on top of magazine images. Now here actually we can see that there is a tool here called the ATC Wizard, which has a 3.5 by 2.5 hole, like it's like a stencil, and so you can use it to line up on your pages to look for an area that looks good at that size. You can create one your own from a piece of cardstock, say 5 by 7, and use that, or 4 by 6, that would work better. So, Claudine Helmuth, Angela Cartwright, just calling out the people that I know. Both of those are Angela's. Never Dull. Now this is using some kind of metal polish cleaner called Never Dull, which you can use to alter magazine pages. Using phone book paper. Now I've seen some YouTubers mention that they use phone books still. Here where I live, they don't make phone books anymore, and they haven't for some years now, so that's getting to be kind of a throwback to the old days if you have an actual print phone book. Claudine Helmuth is turning up here quite a bit. String. Now, this is one thing I've never done. I'm not good with string. This is about the extent of what I've done with string, is to just glue it to the page. Really love the idea though of just wrapping it around your surface and painting all over it. That's really cool. Okay, now we have another gallery. They can be all sorts of things. Here we have drawn people, entirely text, entirely magazine collage, and quite abstract over here. Hey, using tissue paper, that creates texture, and because it is transparent, you can do some interesting things with it. Next, it teaches us a couple of transfer techniques and shows using those on our cards. And another gallery. Fun foam. Now, fun foam is quite interesting to use. It's something that I always seem to have because it comes in the grab bags that I buy from the Goodwill and Value Village. I never purchase it purposely for myself, but I always seem to have some. And I mean, if I had these flowers here, there's really nothing I would do with them, but if you gesso them, you can paint them your own color. And here we see all sorts of techniques being used. Gessoing, painting, stamping on top of that. You can use inks, you can use embossing powders, you can do anything to transform it, and you'll never know that it was fun foam in the first place. An emboss resist. So this, I believe, is using embossing powder, yes. That's something that I've just never got into. These are cute. They sell all sorts of different kinds of googly eyes on AliExpress. And using your leftover embossing scraps, or actually it's to emboss on your scrap papers, which I think is a really cool idea if you're into embossing. Hope I'm not going too fast with these pages. So next we have resin. It's called a resin fresco, and they're using very thick embossing powder from Ranger. So yeah, that's embossing again. This is really nice here. One day I will try embossing powder. Now we get into it's using embossing powder again to get a glass-like resin finish. We want to use Ranger's Ultra Thick Embossing Powder again. Really like these. And here we have a gallery. Interesting bits of bottle caps there. Okay, dimensional resin. Now, this tells you how to make your own resin from embossing powder, but you can just buy resin now. You don't need to do whatever technique they're doing here, but you can use resin. Definitely use molds. I don't do all that kind of stuff, but I'm sure lots of you out there do. You put them on your ATCs. Now this one's got all sorts of found objects in it and has been covered with the resin. Using fabric if you don't sew. How to do that. We use fusible webbing on the back of the paper, which makes it like a sticker, but you have to use an iron to heat it up and melt it, and then that way it sticks to another surface. So yeah, you don't have to be able to sew to use fabric on your ATCs. And here we have a collection of ATCs using fabric. The artists' names are all starting to repeat from in the book. Not very many of them are people who are around today. Fused fibers. Now, I think I did this once. But anyways, put fusible webbing down. Put all sorts of fibers and glitter and sprinkle and whatever, you know, as long as it's kind of like material-ish. And then, what do? We put more fusible webbing on the top of it, iron it, and you get this all fused together. Look at this. That background there is bits of yarn and fabric and obviously lots of glitter. And here we have a really cool collection of things you can do with fabric. Yeah, I have to get more adventurous with using tools. It starts feeling too much like engineering or carpentry or sewing or something if I have to start getting out tools and making them hot. Here we have hand stitching. Basically make a tiny little quilt. Make your ATC size, stuff it, sew some stuff on the front, make a transfer of a photograph. That's quite popular with fabric. Of course, if you have a sewing machine, then you might as well take advantage of that, and you can sew on both fabric and paper, though you will want to use a needle specifically dedicated to paper if you are a fabric sewer, because the paper dulls the needle. You wouldn't want to use it on fabric afterwards. Unless this is all you're doing, then I don't bother changing out my needle. Metal tape. That technique has been used in a couple of the books that I've shown already. Just put stuff on your page and cover it with metal tape, and you've got a emboss type of thing, or you can put the alcohol inks and stuff on the metal tape to create interesting textures. So here we go with the embossing, and this right here has had the alcohol inks on it. Mica. Now this is not talking about the powder mica, but some sort of sheets of mica. That is not something I've ever heard of before, but now we have lots of mica powders. You can just drop them on and spray them with water. High-end eyeshadow is about 90% mica. Lower-end eyeshadows still have the main ingredient of mica, and I have a project set aside that I will be doing sometime in the near future where I'm going to be experimenting with eyeshadow as mica. Now here's something called friendly plastic. This is a moldable plastic sold by sticks or by the pound. I have no idea what it is. So here we get to the ultra cards section. Cards which are something a little out of the ordinary. First of all, I can see this one has a picture of a raven on it and it has wings that extend. This is 2 cards, when put together make one picture. This is just a large one. It's not really an ATC if it doesn't fit in the measurements. Okay, so journaled cards. Use a card for journaling. This is just pretty straightforward what we do. Folded cards. Make a leaflet that's 2.5 by 3.5 inches, and then so it can open up, and you've got yourself a little card ATC. You can decorate all sides of it. Okay, diptych and triptych cards, putting 2 together that make the same that make one picture, or putting 3 together to make one picture. You can also, one thing that is done a lot is take a whole plastic sheet of trading cards, and you get, what do you get? You get 3 by 4. I believe they come in 3 across, 4 down. Take a picture that size and cut it up into 2.5 by 3.5 and slip it into all the pockets, and you'll have a picture that's all divided. Then you can add some artwork to each one and personalize them by simply drawing. Artists, people who don't do mixed media and collage, make ATCs as well. Put your art on a card. That's the correct measurements, and it is still an ATC. Use digital art to create your ATCs. I'm not a fan of digital art myself, but there's a big wide world out there of digital art. Okay, now we have a section here of children making their own ATCs. Why should mom or dad get all the fun of making ATCs? Involve your children. They can use them for art class, or they can use them for any subject. It's a great thing to use if you're a homeschooler. Next section talks about how do you store your trading cards. Of course, we have just simply storing them in trading card sleeves. This is an accordion book in which they've slipped an ATC. Here we have some fabric of accordion books. This one's taken each ATC and joined it to the other. Taking a square tin that will fit your cards. There are lots of tins out there for like Magic the Gathering and whatever else all those trading card games are that the kids play. Well, I guess more than kids that play them, but there's tins that come with those sets. You can alter those tins, and here you have a person actually altering it, sanding it, gessoing it, adding ink and drawing, and creating a tin to store their own artist trading cards. Okay, now this is interesting. It is a recycled tin can. I do not understand how that's an ATC holder. They don't really seem to explain it either. I think this just seems to be that you can recycle a tin can. Okay, so here it talks about collecting and swapping cards. The information on here is way out of date. It's all about Yahoo groups here. I'm not going to talk about where you can do this now. Just look it up, Google it, and you'll find out how to collect and swap. Just ask people to trade with you for a start. And then one thing that you must always, always do, and so many people don't do it, is sign the back of your work or the front. But if you go to an art gallery and you're buying a piece of work, the artist has signed their name. If you create an ATC, you've created a piece of work. And if you're proud enough to swap that and trade that with someone else, you should be proud enough to put your name on it. And then that way, forever and ever, as long as it exists, they'll know who the artist is. Now here they're showing a gallery of fancy ways to put your name on the back of them. Not necessary. Simply signing it will do. And now we just come to a gallery section where we have all sorts of different types of ATCs. I'll just hold each page for a few seconds, and if you want to take a closer look, just pause the video like you can anytime during these flip throughs. Pause, zoom in. This is a great book if you're just starting to do ATCs. I'd also recommend it to people who do ATCs, but they've always done the same style. They don't experiment with techniques. But definitely worth having. It's got a lot of techniques that we used to use back in the early 2000s and don't seem to be used as much now. That there's no reason for them not to, except new products are coming out, so we're doing new techniques. There's nothing wrong with the old ones. And here's a list of all the artists who contributed to this book, and I'm pretty sure that it will be sorely out of date. We've got some resources such as Stampington, Ranger, don't see anyone else I recognize. Oh, American Crafts. So yeah, that's quite out of date too. Okay, and then on the back, some more books that this company has produced. Let's have a look at them. We have Collage Lost and Found, which you will find in one of my previous Throwback Thursdays. We have Collage Unleashed, which I have and will be doing in the future. We have Metal Craft Discovery Workshop, which I don't have and really have no interest for. And we have Visual Chronicles. I have that, but I bought it recently, so I'm not too sure if I'll use it for a Throwback Thursday or not, because it's not a throwback for me, because it's a new book for me, but it is a throwback because it's from the early 2000s. So we'll see when I run out of books that I have used. And that's the end of it. Once again, it is probably out of print, though some of these aren't. But you should readily be able to find it from a third-party seller on Amazon. It is again called Artist Trading Card Workshop, Create, Collect, Swap by Bernie Berlin. Thank you for joining me, and if you made it this far, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe down below, and don't forget to ring the bell so you can get updates to my channel. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.